Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Tastemakers. Of course, this is the podcast where we talk through everything going on in the world of television and film, let you know what you should maybe be eating and what you should maybe be, I don't know, throwing up.
This podcast is
I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and filling in for Grace this week is Josh. How you doing, Josh?
yeah. I don't think it's a binge TV, but don't binge and purge TV. Maybe. I
Yeah,
think just eat it at your own pace. Let us feast on as much as we can. We'll tell you what it. We'll give you like the mouth feel of TV. We'll
exactly.
explain that to you. Yeah.
Especially when most of the shows I watch are one episode, and I'm like, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. It's like I had a bite. I'm good. I'm
Yep.
good. It's all right. It's all right. A lot of shows, Taryn, here as we're looking in. We're officially in the fall TV season, which means we're officially in awards season
Mm.
for the TV side of the movie TV entertainment landscape. Emmys are happening, Taryn.
Yes. Now, you listen, I of course know things, but if you were confused, like I definitely wasn't, about all of these Emmy news headlines,
Yeah.
when the Emmys haven't happened yet, let us explain to you because I definitely knew before I had to look it up.
Yeah.
What's going on.
We know scripted TV. We know Emmys coverage.
Yeah.
I know
That's what
Emmy
we're here
Fox.
for.
Yes. That is indeed what we're here for. No, the Emmys get broken up into a couple of different segments. So the big award show has yet to happen as we are recording this. September 15th is the big night, the second Emmy Awards ceremony of 2024. Thanks, Hollywood, for all of your various and sundry strikes of last year. But this coming Emmys is for the most recent TV season. And what we've already gone through are the Creative Arts Emmys. So this is like lots of like craft work. This is where like all of the various guest stars get their awards, and a lot of really great winners here. Your beloved The Bear, Taryn, scoring some big honors here. Did you ever finish it, by the way?
No,
Nah.
not yet. I'll get there.
Tasting
It's
it
just
slow.
Big Brother and other look, I gotta watch other shows
Short.
like
You've got a lot.
Chaos and
You've got a lot going
Terminator
on.
and yeah.
Oh, how is Chaos, by the way? Have you checked it
Oh, it's
out?
great. I
Yeah.
loved it. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm still only a couple episodes in, but I've been loving it so far. I'm excited to continue to watch it once I finish watching some of the other shows that I need to cover.
Jeff Goldblum as God. I'm just struggling to see where this premise differs from reality. So that's my big question. The big headline that came out of the Creative Arts Emmys, Taryn, is that Shogun,
Mhm.
one of the top 5 shows of 2024 so far, according to the Tastemakers,
Easily a top 5 Shogun.
easily a top 5 Shogun, maybe number one Shogun. I think
I mean, we'll
it's
see.
you know Shogun World was so many years ago. So I think this is Hiroyuki Sanada's number one Shogun too, and he's been in a few. He was in Shogun World. Shogun has already, without the actual core Emmys having yet to air, Taryn, Shogun has already made history with 14 wins out of 17 nominations at the Creative Arts Emmys. And that is the most that any one season of TV has ever won. And Shogun stands to have like 100 more victories potentially coming into next Sunday night.
Yeah. So these are the categories they won. Sound mixing, sound editing, period costumes, production design, main title design, special visual effects, period fantasy makeup, prosthetic makeup, stunt performance, casting for a drama, period fantasy hairstyling, guest
That's a
actor in a drama,
Yeah.
picture editing, and cinematography.
We really yada past guest actor because that's my guy. That's Nestor Carbonell. Richard Alpert officially an Emmy winner. Very happy about this.
He was very good.
He was.
Like, none of these are categories that I would say no to for
Yeah.
Shogun.
Yeah. What
Maybe
was the wait,
cinematography, like
what was the hair category you mentioned?
yeah, this was very interesting to me. Best period/fantasy hairstyling. I
I
don't know if
love
this is
that.
new. I've never seen this before.
Yeah. We do have a stunt category here, I think you said, right?
Stunt
Uh,
performance.
if we're gonna have best period fantasy hair and styling as a category, we better have stunt work as a category. I think this is a bigger deal for the Oscars, that the Oscars have yet to recognize stunt work with its own category.
Yeah, stunt that's absurd.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's
Stunt work
nuts.
is so important
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
also dangerous.
It's so dangerous, so dangerous. Some great other awards. I was both saddened and also psyched because it was a very competitive field here for outstanding animated program. My beloved X-Men '97, though nominated, loses in the face of Blue Eyed Samurai. Also a contender for best Shogun of the year.
I really liked Blue Eye Samurai.
Great
I thought it
show.
was a very good show. I'm honestly, why wasn't that on our list? Was it not technically
I
2024?
think it was 2023. So this is like the 2023 to 2024 season we're recognizing here. Emmys eligible, but not eligible for the Tastemakers top shows of 2024 thus far.
Yes, premiered on November 3rd, 2023. So
Yeah.
did not make
Incredible show.
that.
Extremely your shit. I would have been shocked
Would
to hear that you did not see that.
would have been on my top list for sure if it
Yeah.
had been 2024.
But some great, all four of the acting categories, for the guest acting categories, I was really, really thrilled to see some great new entrants to the Emmy winning pantheon. In addition to Nestor Carbonell, Michaela Cole wins for her very brief but memorable role in Mr. and Mrs. Smith from this past year. And then, did you make it to Fishes in the Bear? I think you got to
I
Fishes.
did make it to Fishes.
uh a very unpleasant episode of television with like so many different guest stars that it would have been shocking if Fishes didn't claim some territory
Did
here.
they win 4 Fishes? Was it that recent?
They won 4 Fishes. They won. Technically they won 2 Fishes. Because Jamie Lee Curtis wins a fish and John Bernthal wins a fish. And this is like the Bear is going to be like in this loop. Assuming that the Bear season 4 comes out in June of next year, it's been as consistent as Only Murders in the Building, just like constantly coming out on the exact spot that you're looking for year after year after year. One of the greatest things about the Hulu programming is they're so consistent. Then we're going to be talking about the Bear and the Emmys conversation for years still to come. Like we are not even looking at season 3 in any of these awards.
Mhm. Yeah, it looks like, Baby Reindeer did pick up a few Emmys here. Outstanding casting for limited or anthology series, and, outstanding picture editing for limited or anthology series. So
For episode 4, I think
episode 4, yeah,
that's a
good one.
really big one. Yeah. No
Yeah.
spoilers. No spoilers for Baby Reindeer. One of the top
But yeah, I
5 shows
mean,
of the year, according to the
uh
Tastemakers.
it definitely helped, Baby Reindeer. I think that, Shogun had a season 2 for sure locked in.
Totally. Yeah, yeah. So I'm very curious to see how much Shogun is going to clean up. I think like if this is a predictor at all, I think we can expect a lot of bloodshed from Shogun. I think acting categories, drama series, all of these that I think when these nominations came out, I think we were already feeling like, oh, Shogun stands a pretty good chance, but this is a little bit of like the blood spattered writing on the wall. Shogun, it was the moment. And if you have yet to go and watch it, let the Emmy voters be the ones who tell you this show is really good. This is one of those moments where like Emmy voters are getting it right. Shogun deserves all the accolades it's getting.
Yeah. Ripley also won, cinematography for limited anthology.
Very, very well deserved. Very
I
well
agree.
deserved. Yeah.
As well as sound editing. and
Also
special
very
visual
well
effects.
deserved. Yeah, yeah. The sounds of Ripley. Sometimes again, like, I mean, if you saw like The Talented Mr. Ripley, you kind of know the thing. You know the thing like that happens in The Talented
Mhm.
Mr. Ripley. Well, the show does that too, and
Mhm.
I can like hear that scene.
Yeah.
I can hear it, and I hate that I can hear it, and it haunts me. And the visuals of that scene. So two very, very worthy awards, I think, given out there.
Yeah. Now, moving on from the Emmys, though, we did talk last week. We said George Martin, he's
Oh
going to be
man,
coming in hot with a
oof,
blog
hot
post.
D. Oh
And man,
no.
he came out with it like right away. It's like a week old news now, but he put out the blog post.
Oh boy. And then he took it back.
Then
and,
he took it back.
and he was like,
I'm pretty sure I said like HBO is going to be like on the phone, like
George, what are you doing? What is going on? Okay, so George R.R. Martin promises a storm of swords in his own right. When he gets
a
on
red post.
the red post is coming, and the man who is single-handedly keeping LiveJournal alive, George R.R. Martin, posts on his little LiveJournal, I've got some words for House of the Dragon. And everyone's like, uh-oh, what's going to happen? And half of me, Taran, was expecting that nothing would happen. And I'm trained for this when it comes to George R. R. Martin.
Mhm.
He says the thing is coming, and unless it's winter, it does not always come. And in fact,
Winter
winter has
hasn't quite come yet.
winter hasn't quite come yet. Winter hasn't quite come yet. But George R. R. Martin, he made time. He made time to drag House of the Dragon for the ghastly crime of leaving out Maegor from the storyline, Taran.
Mhm.
Maegor Targaryen didn't make it in, and that was worth saying Dracarys to all of the bridges connecting George R. R. Martin to House of the Dragon.
Pretty sure it's Maylor.
Maelor.
Yes.
Who cares? Who cares? You make so much money, George. What are you doing? Who
So
cares?
here's the thing for me, was that I read this and I do feel like this was a misstep by George Martin because
Sure.
a lot
Yeah.
of people were not fans of season 2, but they were not fans of season 2 because of Maylor the Missing. They were
Yes.
not fans of season 2 because it was just, like, not paced correctly.
Correct.
And I do think that he was touching on some of that in his post. He, I think, focused too much on this one specific example, and my biggest issue with this post was that I read it and I was like, "Damn, he that was well written."
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like,
It's a
"Oh,
good
man,
writer.
he's a good writer,"
Yeah.
the way he wove in the butterfly effects through there and like, "Oh, man, that was pretty good." And I was like, George, why don't we get more of this?"
Could you just like do that on like one other specific project? Could you just devote your talents to another set of pages?
Yeah.
So the problem is that Baelor Targaryen is not on the show. This is one of Helena's children in the books. And because he's not on the show, this is going to be like a butterfly effect
Yeah.
that is going to impact, ripple throughout House of the Dragon, if not Targaryen history. That's
And
the complaint.
I mean, here's the thing. It's not like I completely disagree.
Yeah.
Like I think that's a fair criticism to make. It's just that it I think is not what the general sentiment is about the show right now. And it didn't feel like a small criticism or like a like here's the, creative difference I have. It felt like,
These
and
guys are awful for doing this to me.
Right, like, headlines are often like, "X person slams, Y person."
Yeah.
And like, was he slamming them? Like, not really, but, like, the fact that this post existed in the first place feels like a slam because it is so uncommon for somebody to go and be so vocal about
Yeah.
their issues with an adaptation of their work. Like the Witcher guy had some issues with the video games of The Witcher, and the guy gets roasted constantly for it. Like
Yes.
especially when it's a successful thing and people love the games. Like people, you know, eh, the fact is that people don't take kindly to writers who sell their work and then complain about the adaptation.
Well,
It doesn't tend to land well.
especially because like in like the grand scheme of things on a relative scale, this is like the tiniest of tiny violin problems. Like you cannot hear the Reigns of Castamere playing on this violin because it is just so small. And George R.R. Martin has made such a large pile of gold creating the Game of Thrones franchise, selling the rights to HBO, sitting back and letting those royalties come in. House of the Dragon, agree or disagree with the creative, is making bank and bringing in money to George R.R. Martin. And I think that people would be more sympathetic if he wrote the freaking book that he was supposed to write that he still hasn't sequelized since the summer after Game of Thrones season 1 finished airing. So already goodwill is kind of not on his side. And then I think when like he's roasting colleagues and like taking shots at the hand that's feeding him, I think that like it could be hard to find sympathy for George in that situation. HBO must have called him very swiftly because the blog post is gone. It does not exist, and it was eliminated with a quickness. It was like, Sir Illan, bring me the head of George R. R. Martin's live journal,
See,
and it was dispatched swiftly, Taran.
that's really what surprises me, which is that, like, I really would have expected them to have been on the phone with him before he posted it. Like,
Yeah.
"George, what are you going to say? Can you send it to us first?" And maybe he says no, and
Maybe
then he
HBO
posts
thought that
it.
he wouldn't write it because he has a habit of not doing it.
Yeah. But so to make this clear, if you did not read the post, we already talked about, like, the content of his complaints, but the thing that really I think seemed to dig into HBO in particular is that he specifically called out some interactions that he had with Ryan Condal, the creator of the show, and how he was told one thing and then essentially behind his back, Ryan Condal made a different decision with this character
Yeah.
for no apparent reason, according to him, and that this will have ripple effects. But and then beyond that, he knows that something will happen in season 3 that will then impact,
Right.
which means he is now, to some degree, spoiling a decision made for the show in season 3. Even though it is in the books, it's still kind of like a plan for season 3 that was not talked about, and obviously by the creators, and then further goes on to say, "This is but the first of some even
Right.
more toxic changes,
Toxic is the word he
toxic
uses.
butterflies,
Yes.
on the way." And so it's a pretty
It's
fervent
incendiary, you
attack.
know?
Yeah.
Like I'm not out here being like, "Oh, poor HBO. You know, what a bad day Mr. HBO had." Uh I feel in some ways a little bad for Ryan Condal, I guess, because I think he and George have a history. When Condal was making his USA Network show Colony, which I really did you watch Colony, Taryn?
I did, yeah.
Feel like it might have been a show for you, which I really enjoyed. I really liked that show, and
Okay.
GRRM was very supportive of it as well. And I think it was a big part of why he ends up getting House of the Dragon. And like they used to like host screenings together in Santa Fe, where George R. R. Martin lives, and all of this stuff. And so it's like a public breakup over what ultimately kind of amounts to like it feels like this because of all the money involved for me at least what ultimately amounts over like a nerd fight, you know, like
Yeah.
we're squabbling over details about like a story, like everyone's trying their best, you hope, and everyone's just trying to do a job and get it done, and like this is the kind of thing that like you take these shots privately, like you fight this battle internally, but to do it out in public over Maelor Targaryen is tough. I think it's a not great look. With that being said, he seems pretty hyped about the Hedge Knight. He said, "Oh, in a recent blog post, he's like, oh, I just went to the set of the Hedge Knight. They really got it going on." Meanwhile, cut to the set of the Hedge Knight, and the showrunners they're like, "Everybody, go over the book again real quick. Make sure we got every detail." George is keeping track.
And I will say, like, while I do think that the tactics here were bad. It's like, it's like Rhaenyra saying, "My dad chose me." Like, they don't, the small folk don't care.
Right.
You need to tap into what the small folk care about, and what the small folk care about is that finale. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like,
Yes.
like if he had put that in there, I guarantee you did a lot more sport. But I thought what was curious was that I was hearing, like, on other podcasts, people that aren't in this world, all they heard about, haven't even watched season 2. All they heard about was George R.R. Martin is complaining about the show that is being made for him by HBO.
Yes.
And it made them feel like, "Oh, how entitled is he?"
Right.
And I was like, "Oof, that's like it's unfortunately a bad look there." That said, I do wish that HBO would listen to George Martin more. I feel like he knows what he's talking about, and probably would
Totally.
make the show better. I don't know why they tend to go off script with this guy. I don't maybe he's hard to work with, who knows?
I think it seems to me, just armchair opinion, that could be the case. That could be the case. That like you could be as virtuous and as factually correct and as like creatively correct and compelling as possible. And if you can't deliver that properly, or if you are threatening to go like, like I'm gonna like go on live journal and tell everyone that the showrunner didn't put Maelor Targaryen in here and paint like a really fat, like that's a hard person to work with. So I think like it's not lost on me that similar things seemed to happen between George R. R. Martin and Benioff and Weiss on Game of Thrones, that there was a fundamental falling apart that happened there as well.
Mhm.
That feels more understandable because like in some ways anyway, because like the books are not done and here's the plan and you're wildly veering from the plan, but it's hard to have sympathy. And I historically have tried to have a lot of sympathy for like he's uber famous all of a sudden, is the author of like the biggest franchise on earth right now. It's a lot of pressure when you're like in your older age, and writing, as he states, does not come to him supremely easily actually. That's hard and that's tough, and just coast and let the shows do their thing and go and live your life and enjoy it. Like if you don't want to finish your books, that's fine. The show is finished. You've got other shows, like that's all good. Then when it starts getting into like complaint territory here, it's just rich that he is having complaints about Westeros, when like we're the ones being like, bruh, bruh.
You know what I think happened? I
Where's
think
it?
that like George Martin sat through the end of Game of Thrones and he kept his mouth shut.
Mm, mm,
And he sat through all of the response to it and kept his mouth shut.
mm-hmm.
And he, like, kept his head down. He was like, "I'm not gonna say anything. I'm not gonna say anything." And then House of the Dragon came, and he was doing well, and he was like, "Finally, like, this is the release that I needed from all of that." And then season 2 comes along, they stop listening to him, people start getting mad at the show, and he's like, "Ah!" And
Yeah,
he's just like,
yeah.
all of the resentment from Game of Thrones and how that ended, all came into Maelor the Missing, and, like,
So the
I think
the
that
the
because
pattern
of that, it
there,
feels very out of proportion to this particular issue.
the pattern there then is the Game of Thrones finale is Ned Stark getting his head chopped off, but House of the Dragon refusing to put Maelor Targaryen on the show is the Red Wedding.
Well, I I think maybe, like, the lack of Lady Stoneheart was
Yeah, that was in there too. That
and the end of Game of Thrones was the Red Wedding,
was
and then, the season 2 of House of the Dragon or Mail or the Missing was, like, whatever set Tyrion off, you
yeah.
know?
But the thing that's like tough for me is like I'm like this is, it gets to the point of like you're just like kind of like openly doing fanfic, but I feel like this is like one of those moments where it would be HBO would be, I don't know about printing money, but they'd be in like a very interesting conversation if they ever decided to like redo A Song of Ice and Fire for animation. And like you can get the actors, as many of them who are able to come back for like voice work, and you can do a version of A Song of Ice and Fire. HBO has an incredible animation tradition from like Spawn back in the day. Like there's like really, really good stuff that could make them competitive with like Invincible or Blue Eyed Samurai or X-Men or whatever. HBO could have that in the Game of Thrones franchise by sticking really closely to the George R.R. Martin script. I think would be an incredible series. I think a lot of people want to see something like that. And I think they would still be printing money if they did it. But I feel like events like these make for strained relationships, and piles of money can heal a lot of rifts. So like I guess like root for capitalism in a moment like this. I don't know. But it makes me feel like if he has this like sort of disgruntled working relationship with HBO that paid him a very handsome 5-year deal to develop his stuff, which is coming to an end in like a year and a half at this point. And who knows if he just like did he like betray a contract? I have no idea by doing all this. He doesn't seem like the kind of person who lets like a gag order stifle him unless it's really serious, and he deleted the post. It just makes me feel like HBO is not really going to want to play ball with this guy anymore, and it's hard to like blame them totally. I don't know. I don't like being on the side of the company here.
I feel like the move is not to go animated. It's to just wait another 10 years and just make the show
Uh-huh.
again, like they're doing with Harry Potter.
Oh God. Did you see Harry Potter open casting call, Taran? They're trying to find
It's
their
big.
new trio.
Yeah.
How
Um,
long is it going to take that show to get made though? Like the
that's
Harry
the
Potter
thing.
show is going to take like at that current TV pace, they're going to cast
Yeah,
like a bunch of like, what are they when they start the thing? Like 10, 9?
something like that. Yeah.
They're going to
They're
be
gonna
45 years old by the time they get to Deathly Hallows.
right.
It's going to be
That's a
crazy.
problem.
Yeah.
I
You
don't
can't
know.
just recast them all. Anyway, I don't know.
I
Yeah.
don't like this. I don't like this new Harry Potter show personally.
No, I'm out on it. I'm out on it. I'm out on it.
I
You know
I
what?
hate
And
that
like,
it's HBO and it will probably be good is my biggest thing.
yeah, that's unfortunate. You know what? It will be completely wildly uninteresting to podcast about because like we know everything that's going to happen. There's no speculation.
It's
It's
also
like
like
the most famous fantasy show. It's not like adapting Marvel where you're like, but we could do this. It's like it's gonna just be Harry Potter. You
it's
know?
not like I mean, I read these books as a kid and I watched the movies as a kid, but like to my recollection, it's not like there
Uh-huh.
was a treasure trove of unadapted material from the books that the show will
Yeah.
really get to fill in on. Like it's
Uh,
they kind of got a lot of it.
uh, Prisoner of Azkaban fans would beg to differ.
Fair.
They got a lot of Marauder material just waiting for them. Just eat it up.
Oh boy. Well, couple other pieces of news. I thought I saw an article about Prison Break
Mm.
topping the Nielsen charts of for streaming. Just another example of one of these shows from, essentially my childhood. Like getting big out of nowhere on streaming because it's a fun show.
Yeah. Yeah. Prison Break has been on Hulu and then showed up on Netflix end of July. And you know me. I love Lost. And Lost is also a show that has been streaming elsewhere and showed up on Netflix at the start of July. And I think this being the 20th anniversary year of Lost, I really thought that Lost was going to have this huge bounce. And it certainly has in certain corners. If you're a Lost fan and you're not following Chappelle on Twitter
Mm.
and catching his Lost thoughts as he goes through it for the first time, let me just point you in that direction. But it ended up being Prison Break that was like the show of that era that I think has had the closest thing, and not even remotely close to like a Suits bump
Yeah.
here in the summer of 2024. At least according to the figures,
Yeah.
the Nielsen numbers of how Prison Break did in its first weeks. And I think some of that has to do, Taran, with it being like It's not just Netflix, it's also the Hulu numbers. So it's got like the benefit of these 2 streaming services juicing its stats because, and I loved Prison Break. I loved Prison Break. Michael Scofield, give me a C Note, John Abruzzi, short lived. Like, love these characters. Teabag, horrible guy. Like I could go on. Michael Rappaport shows up at some point, but who's out here talking about it? I've seen no one discussing Prison Break at all.
Yeah. I mean, I think what it is that because I was also a Prison Break guy. I loved Prison Break. I was down for season 2 because I had watched The
Season 2
Great
was
Escape.
great.
And I was like, "Oh, I love they're doing, like, The Great Escape." Like,
Yeah,
that was, like, an old movie that I liked. And it was fine.
it was
But
great. It was great. Bill Fichtner's like, ah, man, I don't know. I'm compromised. Talk that
I
guy
even
off the
watched
ledge.
whatever it was that they put out,
Haywire. He tells Haywire, like, Haywire, just jump. And Haywire does it. And then you're like, oh, he's a bad guy. Alex
I
Mahone.
I went back. I even watched season 5 Resurrection,
Oh,
in
Prison Break.
2017.
Prison Break Resurrection wasn't awful.
It wasn't.
It was completely consistent with the quality of Prison Break.
Yeah. It was very reasonable as a prison. It was honestly, according to my ratings, it was the best season since season 2.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's for sure correct. Season
But
1, 2, limited series, probably 4, 3 would be my guess.
what season 1 has is that, like, it's a catchy, like, uh, plot hook, and it's very, I think, bingeable, very sort of, like, fun to watch, with tons of episodes, and then, it doesn't fall off a cliff in
Yeah.
season 2, it just slowly starts to
Haywire
get
does.
worse,
Yeah.
and so you can end up watching a good, like, upwards of close to 50 episodes before you're like, "Wait a minute, this is bad."
Yeah, and I wonder on a binge if you're just, like, at that point so in that you're like, "How are they gonna get out of El Salvador?" You know,
Right?
like, at this point, you're like, "I can't believe they got back in." Like, maybe at that point, you wanna keep going, and also season 3 is pretty short, so, like, you're like, "Okay, I
Yeah.
think I can keep going." Um, but season 4 is a ridiculous season of the show, and I can't imagine, unless, like, maybe at that point, you're just like, you're so in. That's where I was. I was just so in that I wanted to know how this was all gonna shake out. But hard for me to imagine just because I don't see anyone talking about it. Clearly, based on how you and I are talking about it, like, I'd love to talk about Prison Break. If you're watching it, let me know because I feel like no one has, like, I see no memes. I see no gifts. Who's talking about Prison Break?
I
Show
don't
them
know.
to me.
But I like that show so much, I watched Dinotopia because I saw Wentworth Miller in it.
Is he in
That's how much I
Dinotopia?
like Prison Break.
Was that
Dinotopia, yeah.
was that a pre-Prison Break at least?
It was pre-Prison Break, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say if he went from Prison Break to Dinotopia, A, like woof, and B, I was asleep at the switch somewhere because that was not on my radar at all.
I
He's
think
like
it
been a
showed up on
very
the Sci-Fi
successful.
Channel at one point.
Well, yeah, there you go. He's a very
Yeah.
successful writer, or at least has had some really successful writing projects. Stoker, a really creepy movie
Yes.
from the 2010s.
Directed
Uh,
by one of my favorite directors, Park Chan-wook.
that's right.
His first
Uh,
English film.
I believe that Wentworth Miller has said he's done acting. So that's a wrap on the Schofield brothers. Though there is a Prison Break reboot in the offing, and I think it's going to be about different characters, though they're threatening as they always do. But it takes place in the same universe. It doesn't need to. Just start it all over
Yeah,
again.
especially because the universe was not the draw.
No, though the show often really thought that it was. It's like the
Yeah.
company. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The draw was a brother gets himself sent to prison so he can break his brother out of prison.
Yeah, and
That is the draw of the show. It's very fun.
has the entirety of the prison's blueprints tattooed upon his body is
Mhm,
also part of it. And you're like, okay, I understand why they are having Wentworth Miller wear long sleeves all the time.
mhm.
It's
Yeah.
I think, an involved process.
Fun stuff. Fun
Yeah.
to relive the Prison Break,
Loved Prison Break. Loved Prison Break.
universe, yeah.
Yeah.
All
Great
right.
ending for
Very
Michael Rappaport. That character sucked. That character sucked, and by the end of it, they're like, we know this character sucked. We're just gonna like put him in a place where he's not gonna be happy.
um all right. Any other headlines here, Josh, before we talk about what we've been watching?
Um, I had a couple. One is there's been some casting developments, and I'm almost hesitant to say it because I feel like by the time this podcast is out, it's possible that it's resolved. But some casting developments on Lanterns, which is, speaking of HBO, is HBO's upcoming Green Lantern show, set in James Gunn's developing DC universe, described as True Detective, for like superhero True Detective is
Oh,
kind of
wait,
the
this is
pitch.
Damon Lindelof?
Damon Lindelof is writing it. He's one of the writers
Ooh.
involved. I believe Chris Mundy from Ozark is involved as well. I believe he's the showrunner, perhaps. And they've put out the casting net, and you're starting to see some rumors pop up. And the latest was the guy who is like maybe the greediest man in the superhero genre, Josh Brolin,
Mm.
was in the mix to play the Green Lantern Hal Jordan. And apparently, the offer was his, Taran. He turned it down. If he had said yes, he would have been Hal Jordan, Thanos, Cable, Jonah Hex. I think he probably has another one somewhere in there. It's too many superheroes for one guy.
That's too many Infinity Stones.
That's too many Infinity Stones. We saw what happened when you give Josh Brolin that much power.
Yeah.
You can't give him that much power. So he has passed, and now the scuttlebutt has been. I've seen Matthew McConaughey, but I feel like that's really like putting it on the nose of True Detective in
Mm.
the DC universe. The Hollywood Reporter says that he has passed on the role, so it doesn't seem likely. Another name that I believe was cited by, I may be getting this incorrect, Jeff Snyder, who is a scooper online, is Timothy Oliphant, potentially
Ooh.
for Hal Jordan, who is amazing, and that would be very, very cool, and would be a bit of an HBO homecoming for Timothy Oliphant.
Mm.
That would be rad. Are you a Green Lantern guy?
Not really.
Yeah.
Don't know much about him.
Space Cops. Space Cops. He has a ring. With his ring, he can create anything, limited only by his will and his imagination. He's able to do all sorts of cool things with his little ring. And there's a whole Green Lantern Corps, a ton of Green Lanterns out there for the various different
Mm.
planets in the DC universe. So you're like a designated Green Lantern for Earth. You're a Green Lantern for wherever. Certainly not Krypton. And this show, with that premise, is going to be about Green Lanterns, Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart, not the Daily Show host, solving a crime on Earth.
Well, listen, Lindelof did Watchmen really well.
Yes.
So, I feel like there's some promise here.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued.
They're looking for a dynamic where Hal Jordan will be an older veteran Green Lantern, and Jon Stewart will be a young guy. So it's like the training day.
Mm.
Ethan Hawke is old enough now, I think, that we could have him have his training day moment. That could be good.
Ooh.
He likes the superhero stuff. That dude just wants to act.
He really, and he's good at it.
He's pretty good at it. Let him
Yeah.
act. Let him do his thing. So that was one thing. The other thing, very sad this week, the death of the legend, James Earl Jones, has passed away at the age of 93, I believe. And I found this out through a friend text thread
Mm.
with the Darth Vader no gif. This was this was how I found out about the passing of one of our last truly legendary living legends, Taran.
Yeah. I remember hearing that the guy that played Darth Vader, like the human,
Mhm.
who's not James Earl Jones,
Who is also a
uh,
human.
who is also a human.
There was a big reveal at the end with James Earl Jones. Robot the whole time. Crazy.
I this doesn't sound this sounds like something that's, like, fake, but, like, I heard that he did not know that his voice was going to be replaced until he
Oh,
watched
I've
the
I've read
movie.
that as well. Yeah. Yeah.
And, like, what a good decision.
Yeah. Yeah. There's been, some clips circulating of, David Prowse, I believe, is the actor who played, the physical Darth Vader.
Mm.
Like, some clips of him, like, talking on set. I don't have the heart to listen. Uh,
Right?
yeah, I just don't wanna know. I just don't wanna know.
So
Uh,
I've also read that, James Earl Jones did sell, the rights to his voice,
yes.
or specifically Darth Vader at least, to Disney, and then I would imagine his estate is paid for that use,
Yeah.
which is a very, obviously, interesting development in AI technology and, you know, rights to human voices and
Yeah.
images and stuff like that.
Yeah. There's did you how much did you and Grace, if at all, get into Alien Romulus here on the Tastemakers?
We did talk about that, yeah, there's
The
a
thing.
decision in that movie that, I thought that was the weakest part of the movie.
There's a thing in
Yeah.
Alien Romulus that summons the specter of a an incredible performer who is no longer with us, and that it also apparently is accompanied with the blessing of the estate.
Mhm.
And it totally took me out. It
It was
completely
not
took me
done
out.
well enough.
Completely took me out. As always, as I'm always saying when the moment arises on these podcasts, Taryn, it's the mouth. We're not there yet. We're not there yet. It's the mouth.
Mm.
Immediately, the mouth's like computer mouth. That's a computer mouth. That is not a real person's mouth. That's a
What
digital
do
mouth.
you mean, Josh?
No, Taryn, you do not want to fuel the robot rumors in this way. This is not the way you want to confirm that you, like James Earl Jones, are of the cybernetic.
I am a human.
Oh God, it's freaky. Stop it. It's so weird. It's always the mouth. You could tell. It's like you could like pass your whole hand through it. It's like, ugh. It's so creepy. Um, with a voice, I don't know. I mean, I don't know where I land with. I mean, this is honestly like even in Star Wars pantheon, right? Like this is like Mark Hamill like showing back up, but like he's kind of like
Mm,
digitally replaced, and like again,
mm.
it's the mouth. Um, I don't know. Like I feel like I'd like to mourn James Earl Jones, an iconic actor. My wife and I were going to watch Field of Dreams, but didn't feel like crying, so we
Mm.
didn't. We watched The Pelican Brief instead. Great movie. Um, so I want to take a beat with that before I start thinking about okay, but at least we haven't heard the last of Darth Vader. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
Like I understand that when Robin Williams didn't want to do the genie anymore and they got Homer Simpson to do it, that it just didn't quite sound the same.
Mm.
Having said that, voice actors got to work. Like could be time to explore. There are other Vaders in the sea, is all I'm saying, Taryn. There's other Vaders in the sea.
Yes, well, James Earl Jones, great actor, great, I mean, truly, I think the most iconic voice, actor, at least, I think in the
Hard to
20th
top.
century.
Hard to top. Hard to top. Do you have a favorite James Earl Jones non-Vader?
Not off the top of my head,
Yeah.
but, if I
He had
glance
a very he
through.
had a very scary dog in the Sandlot.
Oh, yes.
A horrifying dog in the Sandlot.
I
Here
wow, I there 'cause that's the thing too, is there are so many movies that he was in that I watched when I was a kid that I
He's Thulsa Doom in Conan, which is one of like the scariest characters from my early childhood. Uh, his whole vibe in that movie is horrifying. So he's like the lead. He's the lead of a Schwarzenegger action movie. He
he came
has.
back for The Sandlot too.
Oh man, the dedication. He was he instrumental in the two truly great, especially the second one, truly great Jack Ryan, Harrison Ford movies. He has an incredible, emotional, subtle emotional role in Clear and Present Danger. We nearly watched that, and of course, Field of Dreams is his participation in that, and the way he says "Moonlight Graham" is just
Mhm.
indelibly imprinted upon my brain. So, an icon for sure, and a life worth celebrating. And a lot of people very sad about it, rightfully.
Yes. All right. Well, we have been watching some shows.
Yeah, of course.
I did end up checking out Terminator Zero.
Yeah, what did you think? Have you
Um,
finished
I
it?
I did not finish it. I watched the
Yeah.
first 2 and like a half episodes.
Okay.
And then I
I'm a
got
little
interrupted by
further
Big
than you,
Brother.
but not much.
Um, and I will say, I've tried a lot of these like Netflix animated shows, and they're very hit or miss for me. This was actually I'm relatively interested. Like I'm actually interested in going back and watching more.
Yeah.
It's like it's got a fun plot so far. I think like there's a little bit of it that misses me, like when,
Mm.
without spoiling anything, like when one of the, main scientist guys is, like, talking to the AI thing. I'm like, "This is really trippy. This is a little much." Um,
Get used to it. It's like very on the show.
that might be an issue,
Sure.
but the other stuff is fun. I'm enjoying it.
Well, so for those who haven't checked it out yet, like it is Terminator as an anime,
Yeah.
not just an animated series. It is an out and out anime. It is and it is like a hard R anime as well, with like
Mm,
explosive violence, like bullets tearing through limbs, blood splashing rooms, all of it. So it's got like the violence inherent in the Terminator franchise to begin with sort of like the really beautifully rendered, if I can even say that, way that anime can often depict these things. So it's if you're a fan of that sort of style of anime, and if you like the Terminator at all, I would say it's probably a can't miss if those two buckets are buckets that you subscribe to. People subscribe to buckets. If you aren't into those things, I think that the bigger barrier would be the anime piece than the
yeah.
Terminator, because it is like unabashedly an anime. And then for Terminator, like you don't really need to know much about the franchise. Like it starts to get a little lore heavy, but it'll explain to you what's going on as you go through. The voice cast is really good. A lot of really great actors. There Rosario Dawson, Sonoya Mizuno of House of the Dragon. The aforementioned Timothy Oliphant is the Terminator.
Oh,
And like he says like 5 words. So it's like,
yeah,
what
I
a
was gonna say,
paycheck.
I think I heard him say about 5 words so far.
The Terminator has a really cool weapon. It's so impractical in my mind, but it is like, have you seen it yet? Have you seen the Terminator's weapon? The Terminator has like a
Um
signature thing.
I might have, but, like, I haven't, like, quite noticed it yet as maybe I haven't, I don't know.
I don't like. I'm just gonna tell you,
Okay.
okay? It like has like a little hand crossbow that just like pops out of like his forearm and just like shoots you with his hand crossbow, and it's like
Uh,
that's so impractical. Like
that's very unrobot-like.
Who designed the Terminator to have just like this tiny little hand crossbow, but it does a lot of damage, and at least it's unique. Sort of like those are sort of like the weird sort of quirks of Terminator Zero.
Yeah.
If I think the thing that I've seen a lot of people whose Terminator opinions I respect say about the show is it's the coolest thing the Terminator franchise has done since the Sarah Connor Chronicles. And if you're one of the people who's acknowledging that the Sarah Connor Chronicles was dope, then I want to be your friend.
Yeah, back in
It's
the Prison Break days.
back in those Prison Break days when Queen Cersei was just battling the Terminator. It's her versus Garrett Dillahunt every week.
Yeah, Summer Glau, like,
Great show. Thomas Dekker, whatever happened to him? A really underrated Brian Austin Green performance. He could have gotten out there as an action
mm,
hero, but probably couldn't have gotten too much further away from like the Fox channel.
yeah,
So he probably hit his apex there. But great show. And the Terminator franchise has just like turned out nothing but turds ever since. And so Terminator Zero is it a diamond? I don't know about that, but it is. When we're talking, and we've been talking about a lot of really good animated projects over the last, however many months we know scripted has been online. This definitely falls comfortably in the pantheon of like great modern animated projects that are available for you right now.
yeah. I would say, like, if you're a huge Terminator fan, it's pretty good. You probably
Yes,
wanna watch this.
yes,
If you're not, it's not exactly a must watch,
definitely
at
not,
this point, yeah.
definitely not.
Let's see. So I did check out Terminator Zero.
Are
You
you still watching Bad Monkey, Taran, or did you bail on Bad Monkey?
I bailed on Bad Monkey. My conclusion was that like it was too quippy for how long and serious it was.
Ah,
And that when I watch a Bill Lawrence show, I need it to be a comedy first and a drama in the background and not the reverse. And that's why I stopped liking Ted Lasso.
sure, sure. It's kind of like, I mean, it sort of has that. I don't even know if it quite has like the Ted Lasso blueprints
I don't
too
think so.
firmly
It's
on it.
it's
I
not
don't
as
think so.
sappy by any means. It's much more seems much more
No, but do you know what I like
clicking.
about it? I really like the vibe. I really like sort of like I like the setting. I like when a noir story is told in like a really bright locale. Like I like that
Mm,
it's like this like Florida noir. I think is really fun, and the characters I'm really enjoying. The narration, it has a very distinct narrative style that I think has hit for the people who love it, and then the people who don't like it really are out on it. But the thing that I like the most about it is that this is like this is a show that lets Vince Vaughn be Vince Vaughn, and it's like appropriate. Uh, you know,
yeah.
Vince Vaughn tried to be like a very serious sort of anti-hero in True Detective, and it just didn't work at all.
Mhm.
And I think part of it was like proximity to like the height of his comedic popularity. Like he's not terribly far away from Hangover still, not Hangover, Wedding Crashers still at that point. And I think like now he's an older dude. He's playing this character that has a lot more of those like signature Vince Vaughnisms, like the bring it in for the real thing type of energy. And like for me, I have some nostalgia for that. And I think like he's not trying to pretend to be anything that he isn't. He's leaning into his strengths. So I find him to be a pretty watchable character. Um, I think it's a very serviceable, if not pretty good, version of this kind of a show. I'm looking forward to watching Bad Monkey every week, and it's one of those rare shows right now where Emily and I are both enjoying it. So it's like a nice thing to have every single week that we're both checking out.
Cool. Um,
But if you didn't
any
like
other
it, if you didn't like the vibes pretty quickly, I don't think it's for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's probably true. Anything else from this week that you were checking
I
out?
watched the first 15 minutes of The Perfect Couple, and then I got to the dance number. I was like, I've seen enough. I've seen enough. Uh, the
What is the perfect
The
couple?
Perfect Couple is on Netflix, and it is a star-studded affair. Nicole Kidman, Liev Schreiber, uh, Dakota Fanning, bunch of other people, and it is like it is sort of it is like kind of like if you took Big Little Lies or even White Lotus, maybe like some HBO pedigree, and
Mhm.
then like dunked it in the swimming pool at the center of Melrose Place. And that's the show. It's got like a murder mystery component. Someone is dead. Who killed them? Who is it who's dead? Who killed them? Why? All of this stuff. But it also, every episode begins with an opening title sequence that is the entire cast dancing, just dancing like a flash mob style dancing at like a wedding.
Peacemaker style.
Yeah, sort of. Not dissimilar, shorter, much shorter. The entire cast apparently was in like open rebellion about this, except for Liev Schreiber, who was like, "Yeah, I'm in." Everybody else was apparently on like a WhatsApp chat, being like, "We got to talk to them. We got to stop this." But they were unable to stop it, and so it is the opening of all of the episodes, and that was enough. I liked watching that. I've got other things to do with my life. Unless someone tells me that I really need to watch the rest of The Perfect Couple and presents a pretty compelling argument, I think I'm good. I think I'm okay.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. All right. Well, coming up this week, there are a couple of shows on the docket. Uh, two shows that I think are basically the same show entering their second season:
Mm,
The Old Man and
mm.
Tulsa King.
You think they're the same show? I mean, well, they're both old men.
They're
Yeah.
the same. They're the
Yeah.
same. They're old men
Yeah.
who are badasses
Yeah.
who have like a weird romance subplot.
Yes.
And just one of
With
them
a
is
much younger woman.
yes, and one of them is just more heroic openly than the other.
But even not really. Like he's kind of a shitbag.
Yeah,
And who are we talking about? Stallone or Bridges? You be
right?
the judge. You be the judge. Both of them thought they were out. They both got back at the game,
I
Taran.
gave them both 6 out of 10 for season 1.
They both had estranged relationships with their daughters. Wow.
That's what I'm saying.
This is literally the same show.
Tulsa King, of course, a Taylor Sheridan show, who makes dad core television.
Did he write
Um,
every episode of this one as well? Kind of doubt it, even if they say so.
yeah, and these are very dad core shows. They're literally about like old dads being cool,
Yes.
and
Choose
being in
your
relationships with younger women.
choose your father fighter. Jeff Bridges on The Old Man or Stallone on Tulsa King. You have to
You know,
choose one.
I think I gotta go Jeff Bridges.
Yep. Pretty easy
Yeah,
pick. Yeah.
I think he seems to know what he's doing a bit more.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just I don't know. I like it's espionage versus crime genre.
Yeah.
Um the Old Man is the one on FX, but Tulsa King's the one that sort of reads like Sons of Anarchy. Like
Mm,
Tulsa King kind of has like that energy. Like
yeah,
Taylor Sheridan's like all of the lessons he learned on Sons of Anarchy. He's like, I'm gonna put that here.
yeah,
Like has that vibe. Bunch of like
yeah.
motorcycling bad guys in the first season too. Um, I vaguely remember where both of those shows ended in their seasons, their respective seasons one. I shall not go back and watch either of them, but I do intend to watch them both in the real time.
Yeah, I think I'll start season 2 of both shows. Season 2, if the season 1 is kinda mediocre, but I got through it, season 2, episode 1 is usually where I drop off.
Yeah, sure.
So we'll see if they're able to grab me for a full second season, because that would be pretty
Okay.
impressive.
See what happens. So that's September 12th for The Old Man, September 15th for Tulsa King. Wow, competing with the Emmys head to head. Tulsa King
Mhm.
versus the Emmys, Tarrant.
Yeah, and Big Brother.
And Big Brother. Yeah. What are you gonna prioritize, Tarrant, on Sunday night?
Who knows?
Yeah, this is a
Uh,
big mystery. Tune back into RHAP on Sunday night, and Taran will be podcasting about whichever show he has chosen to watch live that Sunday night.
yes.
You won't miss it. Somehow we'll send up the signal.
Speaking of not strictly scripted, Taskmaster also, I believe, is returning this
Nice.
week on the 12th, which is
Big
a
Taskmaster fan.
very fun show. I
Yeah.
love Taskmaster. I love it so much. It's one of those shows that I stopped watching for the most part, and around season 9, because I was like, I need to save this.
Yeah.
I need to, and now there's like 18 seasons, and I'm like, at some point though, I'm gonna need this.
It's daunting for me. I can't. I can't because there's just too much of it. But what I have seen, I've deeply loved, and I try to save it for when we're hanging out with Emily's parents because they're really into British humor.
Mhm.
So this is perfect for them. But they also, they want to do stuff. They don't want to just like sit and watch TV the whole time. So like when I see them, we maybe watch like one or two per visitation. So like I'm going really slow. I'm not that far removed from the watermelon still. I'm still pretty close to the watermelon. Pretty close.
It's a good show.
It's a good
Very
show.
funny.
It's a
Yeah.
good show. I've been binging the seasons of Survivor that I missed. That's been what I've been doing in my spare time. Is this a safe place to say that? I secretly kind of think if you're listening to this, do not tell Shannon Gus. Kind of really think Survivor 43 is the best of the new era so far.
Ooh, which one was
Spicy?
43?
Spicy? That's a good question. That's a good
The
question.
new era blends together in terms of which number is which.
Well, I'm developing my take, Taran, and my take is that like the new era seasons of Survivor are best thought of as one enormous gestalt season of Survivor. That it is all
Fair.
just like it you know went from like Borneo through Winners at War, and then it was Survivor 40s. That's what it is, with like different waves. We go through like the same motions. It's like Westworld. Like, you know, like you get like slightly different experiences depending on who you put through the loop. But they
Jeff
all
is like,
do
howdy,
really like
partner.
they really do have sort of like this yeah, Cody was like a Westworld character.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I enjoyed 43 and I'm through 44 right now. It's, you know, it's fun. It's fun.
Oh.
I've not gone
All
back
right.
to Big Brother since the recap of the recap.
It's been a good season. It's
So I
actually
hear.
been, yeah.
Big Brother
Worth
Twitter is awesome. Like just awesome, not like in the sense of like, wow, that's great, like, whoa, so cool necessarily, but awesome in the sense of like I'm paying attention to it for the first time. How do you do this every day, Taran? How do you live in this world every day?
It's a
It's a
lot of
lot.
days. Yeah.
How many more? You have
Like
it
a
like
month.
written down? Do you like work towards like a red X or anything?
The finale is roughly a month from now, I would say. Yeah.
Okay.
So
So that's like 30 to 31-ish days.
yeah, something like that.
And you've spent about what, like 60-ish days?
Today's day 57.
Wow. I was gonna say almost there, buddy, but not quite.
Not quite. Well, we are almost at the end of this podcast.
Yes.
Anything else that we should bring up before we wrap up?
No, just keep watching all of the TV. We'll be podcasting about it here on We Know Scripted. We've got there's a couple of shows coming out in the next couple of weeks that maybe you will be hearing about more on We Know Scripted, potentially of the superhero and comic book variety. So make sure you're subscribed. Rob has a website .com/scripted for all of the things to subscribe to the We Know Scripted TV feed. Hit that subscribe. Tell a friend. This is the thing that you want to do. I told a friend to subscribe to We Know Scripted TV, Taran, and do you know what he did? I don't think he hit it. I don't think he hit subscribe. This is a bad friend. I shouldn't have asked him. His name's Rob Sesternino.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Notoriously bad friend.
Tough draw. Tough deal. But you could be a better friend than Rob. You could subscribe. Rob has a website .com/scripted.
All right. Well, that's what we have for you then. Tune in next week. We'll be back with some more Tastemakers. I believe Grace will be back by then.
I believe so as well. Hopefully with a big report from Tiff.
Yes.
She's seeing a ton of movies right now.
Yes. We'll have some fun with the TIFF coverage.
Yes.
Lots of movies that are not quite out yet that Grace will have some insight on.
Early tastes.
So, yeah, early tastes here for the Tastemakers. And we'll be talking more Rings of Power. You guys are still covering Industry.
Yes.
Which
I think we're back on the Rings of Power beat together this week, Taran. I'm thrilled about that because if people aren't listening to the Rings of Power podcast here on RHAP, then you're missing out on the fact that like unilaterally we're really enjoying the show. Really, really fun.
Yeah, we really bombadiled out.
Yeah, we bombadilioed, if I'm not mistaken. Some more bombs to drop for this next episode of Rings of Power.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is what we have for you then. Thank you all so much for joining us here today on the Tastemakers, and we will see all of you next time.